Hello, everyone. Just a warm welcome. I'd like to show you briefly what we will offer at the Halcyon Summer Academy this year in 2026. There will be two courses, one of them taught by Carla Groh on Egyptian cosmology, broadly speaking, and one on Homer's Odyssey, which I will teach. And I'll just show you briefly the website here, our landing page for Carla's course. If you didn't see it, I recently had Carla here on the channel. So you could just listen to that conversation here and then head over to this page here. That's where you can download the syllabus for her course. I'm just going to read her brief summary of the course. The one thing the ancient Egyptian priests hated most about foreigners visiting their temples was empty periurgia, simple surface-level curiosity that fixated on the strange and the exotic while ignoring the underlying principles, the cultural significance of their language, and the importance of myth and ritual as their foundational belief system. Ancient Egypt was always more than its odd customs, its monuments, and its mummies. Yet approaching it from the outside often yields an image of Egypt as a civilization of curiosities rather than one of thought. This course begins from the opposite premise, that ancient Egyptian culture must be approached through its own categories, its own language, its own sacred architecture, and its own literary imagination. The goal of this course is to explore the mind and metaphysics of Egypt through their own writing system, their myths, mortuary texts, and philosophical concepts of meaning and purpose. So, given that Egypt is the cradle, this should be of interest for anyone, to anyone who's after searching for the origin. And we will actually, speaking of their own language, you will actually walk away from this course knowing how to decipher hieroglyphs. So you won't be fluent perhaps, but you'll be able to look at some of the inscriptions around the temple structures and, let's say, pyramids of Giza, and you'll be able to decode what they say. Because it's the first lecture of this course, you'll actually spend on, so there will be pre-recorded lectures for every seminar. There will be 5 seminars in total, which Carla will lead. Let's just scroll down a bit. There she is. She's not only an archaeologist, she's also a writer and founder of Evie Gallery and Art Foundation. She lives in America. She studied at the University of Freiburg and the University of Basel. So if you scroll down, it just gives us your first name, email address, and then you can download the syllabus here and just take a look at a more detailed look at what the course will offer, 5 lectures summarized. And as I said, you'll walk away being able to make more sense of the Rosetta Stone. And you'll look at Ma'at, meaning for the Egyptians. There will be a bonus lecture, as far as I know. So there will be 6 lectures actually in total. And you look at the Book of the Dead, of course, crisis literature, so also what everyday life was like, but really also why, let's just say, broadly speaking, cosmology begins with the ancient Egyptians. So for anyone interested in the foundations, that's the course to take this summer. Carla's course will begin August the 16th, which is a Sunday. And I think the time will be 4 p.m. Central European time, which should be 10 a.m. Eastern time. Now, don't pin me down on that. That might be subject to change, maybe half an hour later or so, but that should be roughly when it starts. So if you are in the US, convenient for you, you still got the rest of the Sunday. Then after the course, if you are in Europe, then you just spend a couple of hours with us in the afternoon. There will be some selected readings, and of course, there will be plenty of course videos by Carla to listen to before you then join her for a 2-hour live seminar. And again, I think enrollment will open in about 4 weeks. If you have any questions, just maybe on the technical side of everything regarding this course, let me know. I can't speak on the contents because it isn't my course and I don't know nearly enough about ancient Egypt. But I'm very glad that I found her because I've been meaning to know and learn more myself about ancient Egypt and its cosmology. So the one and the many will also be, of course, considered. So it will be a philosophical course. Perhaps a quote from the Corpus Hermeticum is of interest here. Hermes Trismegistus writes the following: Egypt is an image of heaven, or to speak more exactly, in Egypt all the operations of the powers which rule and are active in heaven have been transferred to a lower place. Even more than that, if the whole truth be told, our land is the temple of the entire cosmos. So the experience of the sacred in ancient Egypt will, of course, also be pivotal here. Title of the course is The Egyptian Mind, Cosmos, Myth, and Meanings. If you just head over to that website that I'll link to afterwards, and which is also in the chat, the Halcyon Guild website, name, email, downloads. You can download it's a 2-page syllabus, so you have a better idea what the lectures will be on. All right. And here's something that what I will teach this summer is, of course, Homer's The Odyssey. Given that the false god of Hollywood is trying to relate to us that we should defy our gods, I thought it wise to return to the true Bible of the Europeans, which is, of course, Homer and Virgil, and begin where my journey once began, with ancient Greek, with the Odyssey. I read the Odyssey, at least parts of it, in ancient Greek when I was maybe 16 or 17. And so now it's time to read it again. We won't read it in ancient Greek, though we will read it in English. We'll use Richmond Lattimore's translation. And well, I also have Fagel's up here somewhere. And I have Mary's translation. That's the one you find in the Loeb Classics edition. But we'll focus on Richmond Lattimore's. And I will teach this course beginning July 11th, which is a Saturday, also at 4 p.m. Central European time. That's 3 p.m. UK time, 10 a.m. Eastern time, and then 7 a.m. Pacific time. There's 20 places in total. And I think about 8 are left currently. So if you'd like to join the live seminars, feel free to do so now. If you follow this link here to enroll. If you have a question on this course, feel free to ask. That's something I should be able to answer. If you don't have time for at least a couple of the seminars, feel free to enroll in the Ithacon Auditor. Be a good guest, though, not a bad one. It's all about hospitality. And hospitality always goes, or Xenia needs two good hosts and good guests. Foundational for culture. We will consider Odysseus, or the Odyssey rather, as the journey of man, of human consciousness, towards, well, wisdom, we could say, but also towards paideia, a word not yet used as such in Homeric Greek, but which we may extrapolate from it. So Werner Jäger's paideia will be central here also in the reading. And we will look at some of the Greek terms, of course. For example, straight from the beginning. If you look at the first couple of lines, andramoi en nepemusa, it's quite striking that the writer, let's just say Homer, the rhapsode here, or the poet, addresses the musa, the muse. Maybe it's the mother of the muses, the Mnemosyne, and addresses her, asking her to sing to me, moi. So there's already a sort of more of a, let's say, self-consciousness than in the Iliad. And of course, and with Virgil, it's just straight on I sing of, or I tell of. And of what shall she say or sing? The muse, well, of Andra Polytropon. You all know the name Andrew, means the male one, and also the brave one, Andros or Andreas. And so sing of the man, Polytropon. Now, you know, who sacked Troy, etc. As Mary translates of many devices, interesting. As Richmond Lattimore translates of many ways, and that I found the most elegant and eloquent and simple. And I think what that captures, though, is that we have, of course, a tendency. We want to look at Odysseus, the person, and then we want to know, who was he? Now, what kind of characteristics does he have? And then we make it all about the subject, and we can infer things about his character. Maybe he was a complicated man, or similar things, and that's, of course, all too short-sighted. What really is at stake is that is never just active or passive. The way in which the Greeks think still is you cannot separate man from action, from, let's just put it simply, from world, from fate, from the surroundings, from destiny, from necessity. And so Polytropon is not just a descriptor of some man, of someone's character, of what, or even of what someone does, but is a description of the many ways, the many turns rather, that Odysseus takes, and that his fate takes for him, and that he is then being let down on. So that is how we must understand right from the beginning the entire text. Or else we risk misunderstanding what might be at stake. And then, of course, the Telemachy, the so-called Telemachy, the first 4 books are let's just put it, it's almost you could almost say, if you want to be a bit provocative, a defense of or justification of, not that it needs one, of the patriarchy. That the father is the archon, is the master of the house, and that without the man, or the father, in that case Odysseus, the oikos is destroyed. And so there is a need for Odysseus to return, even though he's offered immortality even by Calypso. He must face death, he must return home, he must reinstate the oikos, or else, if the oikos is destroyed, the nomos of the earth and the cosmos is equally out of joint, perhaps even entirely destroyed. Now, after the gruesome Trojan War and its end, which perhaps had to end in a certain way, there is now a need to reinstate the house. And thus, Odysseus must complete his nostos, his journey home. And it is a foundational text, if not the foundational myth or image of the European human being. And that is how we shall read the text. So I'd like to invite you to join Homer's Odyssey. I will publish a few more videos on the Odyssey in the coming weeks. The enrollment for this course will close, I think, July 7th or so. And it will close for good. So I'm going to teach this once. And it will close entirely. So self-study won't be available. Obviously, live cohort won't be available. If you'd like to take private consultations with me, perhaps you think quite rightly that in your decision making, Odysseus, or reading the Odyssey could be helpful, then I'd be happy to guide you. All I ask is 2 minutes of your time to apply for the fellowship, and then we'll get back to you within 24 hours. There's currently 2 of these here left and 1 of the Sovereign Scholar, which is 5 private one-on-one sessions or consultations, and there's 3 in the Odysseus Fellowship. And if you get accepted, then we respond with a link for the honorarium. What this will ask you is simply just, summarize for me why you think you might benefit from such a conversation, and what currently keeps you up at night in your business and in your leadership role. If you'd like to join a live salon of people who will be very eager to read this course, this text in a small group of 20 people, and we will be very close to the original text. It will be assorted reading, so we'll read about 70 pages per week, and we'll focus in on a few really significant passages every week out of the 4 or 5 books we read for every week. So there'll be 5 weeks in total. And of course, the first week is the Telemachy. We must focus on just the beginning, on Odysseus. It's Polytropon, what I just pointed out, on the Council of the Gods, or on the Odyssey. Hence also the relationship that Odysseus has with Athena. And then the rest of Telemachy, the Telemachy, which introduces the topics of Xenia and of Oikos, of reinstating the Oikos. And we continue on with Calypso, and we might actually even include this Odysseus encounter, let's just say, with with Polyphemus, with the Cyclops, in the second week. We'll see. So there's some obviously there's always some flexibility, and there will be about 75 pages per week, which is easily, it's not too hard, a couple of hours of reading. And then we'll focus in on a few passages that are maybe sometimes just 10 lines, sometimes 50 lines, sometimes 200 lines. And that will be the basis for the discussion. I'll open every session with about half hour lecture. And then I send you off into a private group session with a few others. And once you return, we've got a group discussion. And I encourage everyone who takes part in this to present a brief talk for about 5 minutes. So there could be several of you just presenting every week on the selected readings. There's a Discord server where people are already joining, and they've started the discussion a little bit already. And so if you join now, the discussion basically begins, and it's a good time. If you think about it, it's about, 3 weeks before we begin, on July the 11th. So that gives you enough time to get a copy of Richmond Lettimore's translation, which currently I think in America is about $8 on Amazon. So I link to that translation to make sure you can get the right one. You need to start reading now. So read as much as you can, and then we go through it together. The idea is that, of course, all the sessions will be recorded. So you may, for all eternity, return to the recordings and listen to them again. Go work with your notes. If you so decide to read through this text again in about 5 years or so, then you're free to do. So again, you'll have indefinite, or rather lifetime, access to all course contents. And I'll say this again, I'm going to teach this summer, and that's it. It will close for enrollment for good. Also the self-study tier. So this is the Summer Academy at Halkyon this year. There will be 2 courses. Carla's course on the Egyptian mind, cosmos, myth, and meaning, which begins August 16th, which is a Sunday, and I will teach Homer's The Odyssey, foundational for European manhood. So I look forward to welcoming you at either of the 2. I will be obviously at the Odyssey course. You won't be able to not encounter me. I have to be there because I'm teaching it. But even at Carla's course, I will be there. I will be listening myself and taking part in maybe not all of the 5 seminars, but definitely most of them. And if you have any questions at all on the Odyssey course, please let me know now, because I might have to disappear in about 2 minutes. Maybe I put this in the chat. This gives people more of a reason to ask a question. Yeah. Okay. So let me just go over briefly again. If you head over to this website, which you see on the screen, you find all details on the Odyssey, which begins Saturday, July 11th. We meet at 4 p.m. Central European time. That's 10 a.m. Eastern time. Let me maybe just read the FAQ. So if you miss a session, that's not a problem. They're all recorded. We'll be using the Richmond Letzimore translation. You don't need a background in ancient Greek or philology. Better if you don't have one. I mean philology. In terms of ancient Greek is not the focus. I will look at some of the words as far as it makes sense, but we won't be splitting hairs. It's not so much about that. What's more important is the story. But you will walk away from this knowing at least some of the crucial terms, such as polytropon, and why, for example, complicated is a really misleading translation, or why polymetis, as this particular translator chose to translate polymetis as lying, which is just outright, which is itself a lie, funnily enough. I'd say about, in terms of the reading that you have to allocate, about 2 to 3 hours every week. And there is already a Discord server set up for the sessions for you to have a discussion in between. So if you have time for at least, let's say, 2 or 2.5 out of the 5 live sessions, you join us in the live cohort here, and just click secure your seat, or you join the auditor seat if you don't have time for at least 2, let's say, if you really can't make it. If you'd like to take private consultations with me, please apply either for the Odysseus Fellowship or the Sovereign Scholarship. This includes 3 private tutorials, and this one 5 private consultations throughout the 5 weeks of the course, and I'd be happy to guide you in any sort of leadership problems, issues, challenges that you face currently. So just click apply, and I'd like to know a bit more about you and why you think you might benefit from that, and then we decide whether you'd be a good fit. So I'd like to thank you again very much for listening. If you know anyone interested in Homer's The Odyssey or in Egyptian metaphysics, please let them know about these courses, forward them the links, etc., etc. And in the meantime, I wish you well. I hope you have a good week, and I hope to see you either at the Odyssey or at Carla's course on Egyptian thinking, Egyptian thought, or maybe even at both. Why not?